Let me tell you about Matt Chavlovich. You know, I can tell you all the impressive stuff. He's been a CEO, he's been a 2 times Ironman, a professional soccer player, studied human performance for 20 years. Look at his website as I read that to you because that speaks to who he is in the world and the things that he's done. But I'll tell you what I love about Matt is that on a regular basis, Matt sends me text messages and they're always a video. He's a man who knows how to be gracious. He's a man who knows how to say thank you. He's a man who knows how to connect deeply. He's a powerful man. He's a man who makes stuff happen in the world. But underneath it is, for me, it's the humanness of this man, the humanity of this man, the graciousness of this man that makes him really special for me and in my community. So whether he's talking about high performance or whether he's talking about his family or anything in between, Matt's a man who's had an impact on me. And I feel privileged to be able to let him share our platform and share him with you.
Wow. So I actually need to take a breath because I was hoping that we could just do it funny style where I could just say, Jane, introduce me, and nothing happened. But I had an opportunity to watch that video ahead of time, but I purposely didn't because I had no idea what he was going to say and I didn't want to prepare at all. And so I'm actually really moved and it'll be interesting where we go with this because this session is all about letting go of control. And it's all about what is on the other side of going all in, going out of control, and the magic and the beauty that's on the other side of that. And so I wanted to literally create that container. So I'm moved and a little choked up. But first off, I want to thank you for being here. I know that you guys, it's a weekend. I know for many of you it's early, some late, but I know you're taking time to be here. And so I'm excited and I'm honored that you're here. I'm going to encourage you to use the chat, engage with each other, say what's landing, say what's not, say what you love, say what you hate. I'm not attached to any of it. I'm going to share a little bit of how I operate in the world, some of the things that I've learned, and hopefully something shifts or moves for you a little bit. But there will be a lot of self-reflection questions through it because I'm on my journey, you're on yours. They're different, but they're perfect for each of us. So just be ready to kind of really take those in. And the first couple I want to start with is, what does out of control look like for you? What does out of control look like for you? Is it yelling, screaming? Is it asking for what you want? How do you define that? Because in these definitions and in these perspectives, what I found is that you also find what holds you back. And put it in the chat if you could, please. Second thing I want to ask is, what does magic look like for you? What does magic look like for you? Because that's what we're going to be talking a lot about. And how many people, just from a show of hands, don't know one or both? What out of control looks like, what magic looks like for them. And that's okay too. Alexis, I love it. Making choices that are not aligned for me. Yeah. So now I want you to take an honest assessment. There's no judgment here. I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, we've been talking a lot about, living a life of all 10s or all 5s. 1 to 10, how much do you like to control situations? How much do you like discomfort? Jane. How often do you seek out situations where you don't know what's going to happen? How often do you seek those out? And how important is it for you to know what you're truly capable of? Because my intention today is to not point you in any direction. My intention is to maybe shift those numbers a little bit for you. Maybe a 2 becomes a 4. Maybe an 8 becomes a 7. Whatever serves you, that's my goal. So let me define what magic is in my mind, and basically for this space right here. Magic is what only you can do. That is how I define magic. It's that part of you that when you bring it, things happen that would not have happened without you. The ultimate result could be the same if somebody else did it, but it wouldn't be the same way. It wouldn't happen the same exact way that you would do it. It's your essence. It's your uniqueness, fully embodied. And control, the thing that I will challenge today. The way I define that is, that's a choice to protect what you have over what you could have. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is a choice to protect what you have over what you could have. That's how I define these. And this Brilliance session is all about finding your magic. Even though there's another one titled that, but it's really what's on the other side of letting go of control. So I've done a lot of things that have pushed edges, physical edges, mental edges. Some have worked out, some haven't. Some have brought me to the tip of mountains. Others have brought me to very lows, really deep lows. But how I got there was one article I read when I was a teenager that really kind of shifted something in me. And it talked about motorcycle racers. And the article was all about what makes elite athletes win over and over. Because when I was growing up, winning was everything. I had people all around me that basically would say things to me like, come back with your sword and your shield, or on it. Don't come back with a win. Like literally it was everything to me, which served me for a portion of my life, and then it didn't. But there was this article that talked about motorcycle racers, and asked one question. It said, what's the biggest difference between the elite racers that win over and over and over again and the ones that constantly take second and third? And it said, simple. The ones that win over and over are willing to go into a space where there's no control. They're willing to go into the area where they are out of control. And the ones that can do that and do that frequently are the ones that win over and over. And it showed like these stats where there were like 5 racers that had won 90% of the races because they were willing to go into that zone. And that hit a switch for me. And that really kind of was my motivator to get curious and go into that place. But as I look back on that, I really see that those racers that were willing to go there, I look at as had 2 things really clear. 1, they appreciate the opportunity that was in front of them, which was a choice. Go where I don't know what's going to happen, but if it goes well, amazing things could happen. There's a choice there. And they appreciated it and didn't undervalue it. And what I mean by that is a lot of us have an opportunity to go all in and we say, no, next time. But what if you're a motorcycle racer and it's between you and one other and you have to go into the unknown? What if you never get that chance again? So they understood and appreciated that opportunity and how close they were. I think that's something that I know I've missed a lot and a lot of people miss. But the second thing I think they got really right is calibration of pain and regret. I think this is something a lot of us get wrong. The calibration. What I mean by that is a lot of us think that our immediate pain, let's say that we'll stay on the motorcycle racers, if they fell, the immediate pain would outweigh anything else. And I believe the exact opposite. I believe these athletes thought the opposite too. The pain of not knowing what could happen if they went into the unknown, if they actually went all in and pushed, the pain of not knowing for the rest of their lives, I deem much greater than anything that can happen in the moment. I think we get this backwards a lot. We get scared and we say that whatever the pain of getting there is, that is going to be more painful than not knowing. And I don't believe that. That calibration, I think they embraced. So my questions to you, where have you, actually, I'm going to take that back. Where are you not acknowledging the opportunity that's in front of you to put yourself all in and see what happens? Where are you not respecting that and banking on another opportunity to show up? Whenever Rich says, who wants to be coached? I know I'm guilty of this. I'll raise my hand next time when I know what I'm going to say. What if there is no next time? So the question is, Jane, where are you not acknowledging an opportunity that can give you everything you want? Where are you taking it for granted, thinking another opportunity could come again? And you're not viewing it as once in a lifetime. And where do you have a calibration issue where you're actually overvaluing the pain of the present and undervaluing the pain of not knowing? Where do you have a calibration issue? And it comes down to, look, we're talking about living a life of 10s or 5s. Are you willing to live in the 9s and 10s, knowing that there's a risk of 1s and 2s from time to time, or are you happy with a 3 to 7 range? And if I was talking to a bunch of people at Chamber of Commerce, no disrespect to them, it might be a little different. But this group, I struggle believing that 3s to the range between 3 and 7s would actually fill you up. So let me pause there because I don't want to just talk at you. What's landing? What's coming up? What's stirring up? What's making you angry? What's making you feel something? I'd love to know. Just put it in that chat. Lori, truth. Fran, what's hitting home? Urfa, yeah, we all know that one. We all know that one. So I'll talk a little bit about what got me into that zone. It'll be different for everyone, but I'll kind of talk what I really held on to go to places that I didn't know what was going to happen. That's what we're talking about. I don't know what's going to happen. I've never been there. I'm scared, and it's going to take all of me. I always held on to the other side. I held on to what would happen on the other side if I went in. So if I was a motorcycle racer, I'd be thinking about the podium. I'd be thinking about the medal. I'd be thinking about the sponsors. I would hold on to the other side. So the pain was a secondary thing. The fear was a secondary thing. I'd hold on to the other side. I also would know that the unknown meant growth. There's no way you can go into the unknown and not learn something. It may be pleasurable to learn. It might be painful to learn, but you will learn. And I was obsessed with growing and learning. I still am. And just the image of what could be is what drove me. So that always, whether I was doing Ironman, whether I was walking into, big boardrooms, those things brought me into the unknown. But here's the funny thing. Once you're in the room of the unknown and out of control, you need to change mindsets. And what happens is you need to embody presence. Once you're there, it requires your full presence. And a lot of people describe this as flow. So there were two distinct skills, I will say, to get into being out of control. One is looking on the other side of it, but once I'm in the room, it's about being ultimately present. And I was going to create slides, but I didn't want to get into the whole make me a host, let me share my screen thing. But we've been talking about wormholes. And so I drew this. This is how I look at it. We operate with a lot of control. And as we move towards what we want, there becomes a wormhole that we actually need to cross and go through. And this wormhole takes 100% presence. It takes 100% of our uniqueness. It takes 100% of courage. But on the other side of it becomes our magic. We actually find what we're capable of. We actually find what is our gift. And without actually doing this and going through these wormholes of being out of control and exploring, I don't really believe it's possible to know what our magic is. You can think about it, but unless you've went all in and seen where you've failed, seen where you've grown, seen where you've kind of what you've created when nothing else has been around, that's where your magic is. And here's how I look at life. It's actually a series of these where you have control, you go through a wormhole, you find your magic, and then that becomes your norm. You're afraid to speak, then you speak a lot, and now you're a good speaker. And so now you control again, and you need to go through another wormhole to find your magic. And this, crossing this line from control to magic and allowing yourself to dare to let go of what will happen, is what life is. That is when your magic is tapped. But here's the beautiful thing, is that there's literally neuroscience data that when you go into situations where you don't know what's going to happen, you engage more parts of your brain to solve problems, to engage, to kind of be who you are, which means you're smarter, more creative, more powerful. I want to pause there for a second. I mean, think about how many situations you're in, jobs, conversations. I could do that with my eyes closed. I know that the back of my hand, like the back of my hand. You're using probably that much of your brain. But yet if I put you in a room, in an escape room activity, you'd be engaging all parts of your brain. You're actually smarter when you go into the unknown. And you're also starting to develop and strengthen other areas of your brain so that when you do go back into your world, you'll be more developed. And I just share that understanding because that's what motivates me. Going into the scary, going into the fear, going into the I don't know, I'll be better off. There's no way I won't be better off. And once you get a taste of what flow is, true embodiment of presence, no future, no past, just the moment, there's nothing that feels like that. And think about, we can go as big of an experience as not. You know, whether you're giving a speech, a TED Talk in front of millions, whether you're having sex, I mean, just that pure flow of presence to go, I don't know where this is going to go, but I am going to be fully present. There's no bad side when you have your calibration right. So, my question for you, where do you not let yourself out of control right now? Where do you hold back? And what permission are you waiting for? From who? Who are you waiting for permission from? And what kind of permission? To actually just let it all out and say, I'm in, here I am. What if you were granted permission in this moment? What would you do with your new freedom? What if you became obsessed with putting yourself in situations where you didn't know what was going to happen? It's really the basis of a bold request, right? As I say that stuff, what's coming up for you? Like, what's actually in your body when I ask those questions? Katerina, excitement. Lori, thank you. No, Alexis, you definitely don't hold back in the moment. But yeah, putting things in the world. Sure. Fran, curiosity. I love it. Dwayne, obsession. Yeah, I just gave a speech to the source team on this around obsession. Obsession isn't a bad thing if it's used properly. Here's the beautiful thing is that when you're in flow, again, there's no there's no future or past, there's only present. Your memory doesn't really engage. I've made a lot of money. I've gotten myself in rooms with the king of Thailand. I've met heroes. I've played in front of thousands. And all of those best moments, if someone said, how did you do that? I couldn't explain it. I would just say I brought all of me. I literally went into places that I didn't know what was going to happen. I asked for things that I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't evaluate if I thought it could or anything. I just got really curious and said, let's see what happens. And magic happened. I can't explain it. And that is what is in all of us. That's not a me thing. But control is kryptonite to magic. Control isn't bad, but it is a choice. And it's kryptonite to your magic. Because real magic requires all of you. There is no shortcut. It's a sacrifice. But I want to be clear, what is the real sacrifice? It's a sacrifice of control, yes. But what are you sacrificing by not exploring the unknown? What are you really sacrificing? Back to the calibration issue. And what's a more painful sacrifice? Truly finding out what you're capable of or not knowing? When I trained for my first Ironman, it took 9 months. And there was only one thing I said to myself to get me out of bed at 4 a.m, to get on a bike for 3 hours at 10 p.m. after I worked. I just kept on saying, what would happen if you committed? What would happen if you stayed committed? Let's see what you can do. That was it. That was all I would say. Alarm would go off. I had gotten 3 hours sleep the night before. And I would say, what would happen if I stayed committed until the race? Let's see what you can do. That was it. And just that curiosity allowed me to do something for 9 months that I wouldn't have ever really thought I could. And as I've done it more and more, the real thing I anchor into now is trust. As I get more spiritual, as I get more connected to divine truth, I trust that I will always be held by the universe, by source energy, by the divine, and that wherever I go into the unknown, wherever it leads me is exactly where I'm supposed to go. And that is what my true being uncontrolled is all about these days. Whatever comes up is perfect for me. It's part of my journey. There's no more trying to plan the mountains to climb. It's let's just keep exploring. And I trust that I'll be served with exactly what is perfect for me in the moment. That's really where I lean into these days after I've done all that. But at the end of the day, it's about finding out what I was built to do. That's kind of my biggest motivator. And so if I could do anything with this Brilliance session, it'd be to grant you permission. We're all coaches, I think most of us. I believe that our jobs with our clients is really for them to give themselves permission to go places that they haven't been able to in the past themselves. If I could wave my magic wand and give you all permission to go someplace that you don't know what will happen, just because I want to see the magic inside of you all light up and be shared with the world. My gut is that's why you're in this intensive, or this accelerator, excuse me. There's people waiting for you to take them out of control, which a lot of times can require you to be out of control. So what are you hearing? What's coming up? Tell me where you're at. And I haven't been reading the chat, so I'm going to catch up a little bit. And let's do this. We got about 10 minutes. Yes, DTK, you have a permission slip. I'd love to hear from you. What came up? What landed? What didn't? What do you hate? What do you love? What are you curious about? What questions can I answer? Jessica.
Yeah, so like something that was coming up for me while I was listening was, at what point does like the push become another form of control? So, you know, like that thing of what if I was really committed? Because like yesterday I was getting a feeling in the group that it was almost like, you need to do this, like with like Alexis as well. And I see you here tonight. And it was like that thing of I've got to do the next thing. And almost like almost feeling like that, knowing when that thing that's saying like yuck or I don't want to is actually a call to do something else, and when it's you need to like go through that and into your magic, and when that's a separate thing. And then the other thing is like the you know, pushing yourself to do the Iron Man or whatever, is that a form of control?
So what I hear you saying, and I may be getting it wrong, so what I hear you saying is, how do I know the difference between just pushing myself out of ego and just to push myself versus what is right for me?
Yeah. When does it become another form of control to keep pushing?
Sure. And that, first of all, beautiful question. Beautiful question. Something that took me probably 30 years to learn. I didn't really actually realize in my 30s that, hey, I can do anything is what I felt, but not everything is mine to do. So then my shift became actually getting into my body and feeling what is right for me.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the truth, which is, and that's a whole nother practice. Show up maybe on Wednesday and we can do a brilliant session around that. But that's just a practice of actually tuning into my heart for me in whatever part of your body and actually channeling what is right for me. I'm beyond the ego part of, hey, let's climb this mountain. I used to operate that way where people would just say things and I'd say, okay, I'll go do that. But then I realized that I was doing things that didn't mean anything to me. And so now it's about what actually means something to me. And so does that answer your question? Does that get you any closer?
Yeah, I think it definitely feels like that idea that from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is your experience and your expertise with yourself, if you like, has got you channeling in now much more to what feels like the right next unknown.
Completely.
So that, you know, that you actually now go, oh no, maybe now it's to not do the Iron Man. Maybe now it's to spend time with something else, or to rest, or to, you know, whatever else you need to do. Yeah.
Completely. And I'll tell you, I learned that one the hard way. My last Ironman was in France, was in Nice, France. And it's one of the hardest ones with the mountains and the Tour de France, stuff like that. And with about 10 miles left on the run, my body was completely shut down. And I sat down on a curb. I was racing a time that I'd never raced before. I was doing brilliant. And I sat down on a curb and I sat there for 45 minutes because I lost why I was doing it. I wasn't attached to why I was doing it anymore. I was doing it out of trying basically just to have other people love me. I was doing it. I couldn't connect to it anymore. And for 45 minutes, I basically said to myself, I need to come up with a reason that's mine to get off this curb and go to the last 10 miles. I just couldn't mentally push myself anymore just to see how tough I was. Like I couldn't do it. And I got up after, it was probably about 50 minutes. Time was gone. And it was more just about enjoying it and experiencing it. And I never raced again. My last race ever, because I can't connect to it anymore. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Mm.
So that's where it's not an ego play, because when it's an ego play, there's no magic being found.
Mm.
It becomes what magic can be found by me showing all of me.
Mm.
And I wasn't showing all of me. I was showing a portion of me,
Thank you.
What else? What else coming up? Laurie.
Gosh, Matt, my hat is off to you right now. I've got a challenge for myself in the month of October, doing my OTAT, one thing at a time, which is completely foreign to me, and it's becoming very powerful. And it's just so ironic that I'm here on your Brilliance session today, because what you're doing is taking it just up a level. You found the human common denominator. I think it is human to want to try to control things, and the way you've unpacked it here for us and with us is so beautiful. This permission slip is such a beautiful metaphor for how we can live the next moment, the next hour, the next day. And it's very clear to me you've mastered this. So you're the right person to do this. And I know you personally, and I've gotten my doses of Matt. So you really are so genuinely authentic. And I'm loving what you're sharing with this group. And I thank you for the message. That is what I needed to hear today.
Oh, that warms my heart, and I have goosebumps. And it's funny, you said something that really hit me, the human part, and Rich said it too. And I want to be clear. I did it wrong for so many years. And I left relationships to go do things professionally and never told them what I felt about them. There's been plenty of instances where I didn't share what I really felt or do what I really wanted to do. And so that's all a form of going into a place of uncontrol, right? I mean, as a teenager, it usually starts with, do I say I love you first, or do they? Do I try to kiss them, or do they, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about going to a place where you don't know what's going to happen. And I've experienced more than most, which have served and haven't, but I'm just happy an opportunity to share with you guys. So thank you. Oh, I love you deeply. What else is coming up? Is any questions I can answer? Because we only have about 5 minutes. So is there any question I can answer? Fran. Well, you're on mute. Wait, I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. That's all right. Take your time. It's a little, can you type it in the chat maybe? There you go. And while she's doing that, as Rich likes to say, you only need one insight to change your whole life. Let's anchor it in. If you'd put it in a chat, that'd be wonderful. Katerina, be careful judging yourself on that. I've done some of the hardest physically and mental things that any person in my mind can do. Telling someone I love them is very hard for me. So be careful judging what you think you should be able to do and shouldn't. Is there any specific types you have that enables you to get so in touch with what is right for you? Yeah, there's a practice I have. There's many folks that can teach you one in a much more depth and meaningful way. But it's really just about getting quiet. It's about getting quiet. It's breathing. It's about getting into my body. And it's about actually listening to my heart. I tune into my heart. And my process is, I actually say both scenarios. Let's take a job, for example. Should I take this job? Shouldn't I? Should I leave? Shouldn't I? And should I stay in this marriage? Shouldn't I? I say both. I'm going to stay in this marriage. I'm going to leave this marriage. I'm going to stay in this job. I'm going to leave this job. And one of them brings a peace over me. And I know now that that peace is what's right for me, and there's no questions. I learned the hard way. I will say that I can feel a slight peace, but then my mind has talked me out of it. And what I realized is that when this speaks, it's not the loudest, it's not the most consistent, doesn't say it multiple times, it says it once, but when it speaks, I listen. And that was a hard lesson. So yeah, it's really just getting quiet and listening to this. And the minute it speaks, I say, okay, even though that's scary, even though I don't love that choice, and that's where kind of my trust that I'll be held by the universe and source comes in. So beautiful. Well, honestly, I mean this from my heart. You served me today. I have goosebumps right now. The opportunity to get this out of me and the opportunity for some of the things I've been through that have been painful, that have been pleasurable, just to actually share those with the world served me deeply. So I'm grateful to you for opening up your time and your hearts and allowing me to share. All right, gang. If I can answer anything else, you know how to get a hold of me. If not, I love you deeply and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt.
Everybody unmute for a second. Give Matt some love before we go.
Thank you. That
Great
was
way to
really
start the
good.
day, Matt.
Thank you,
Amazing,
Matt.
Matt.
Beautiful.
Love you, Matt.
Thank you for your magic.
I love you guys.
Wonderful.
You're amazing.
Really amazing. Great way to start the day.
Beautiful.
Great
Great
way
to see you guys.
Gorgeous.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.